All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a Tuesday night edition of Inside Texas. I'm Jeff Michaels, and sitting right next to me over there is the lovely and talented Mitch Thames. How you doing, Mitch?
I'm here.
You're
here? Here. I've actually gotten some sleep.
Yeah, good. That's good, because I don't know. Well, I do know. I shouldn't be stupid if I didn't say it. I didn't know, but I remember a few years back, and I know you remember a few years back, we had a little storm called Harvey, and we were all up for 3, 4, 5 days. We were just up straight, and everybody's going, I'm a little tired. We'll take a nap. I don't know. I got into 16 hours. I was just doing 16 hours straight on here, and all of a sudden, I'm like, it hit me like a brick. It's like, my God. You know, then when I got to 24, I was like, wow. It's totally different now doing.
People don't understand it. I didn't understand it until, I'm telling people today, that the tank gets empty. When the tank's empty, it's like hitting a brick wall. Unfortunately, we had a couple of folks that especially some of our volunteers, it was their first time. They were excited. The adrenaline gets going. I understand that. And I try to tell everybody, especially in a storm like this, plan for your replacement. It's very important that you plan for your replacement before the storm ever hits.
Yeah.
Because trust me, and you know it, you've been doing this a long time, you hit a wall. And when you hit the wall, there is nothing else.
Yeah. I actually had a phone call from one of the meteorologists from Baton Rouge when I was working with Katrina. And he says, as bad or not as bad? I said, not even close. And a lot of people really never been in a hurricane at all before. We have a lot of people along the coast that move from up north, or from the northern parts of Texas, and never experienced it before. And people were going, that was a category 1. I can't imagine what a 4 or 5 is. I said, no, you can't. You really can't. Where trees are like matchsticks and your house is just like a haystack, and you just don't, it's really totally different.
I went through Frederick and Mobile.
Yeah.
And the windows, I could see them bowing in and out.
Right. Yeah.
Bowing in and out. Now I was smart enough to open them and equalize the pressure. The sliding glass door was moving. Jeff, I ain't kidding you. That was moving 3-4 inches in and out.
In and out, yeah. Storms breathe. We talked about this a while ago. The storms actually breathe.
I know.
A lot of people, and I'll explain it in a little bit. But first of all, I want to say the hats off to you and the judge and the whole team. Yeah, well, yeah. I'll go down through everybody so they know who the team is. Because a lot of people don't know who the whole team is.
Sure.
Our emergency responders. Our police department, sheriff's department, emergency management, you, the judge, our council members, our mayor for here in Bay City, the folks down, Palacios and Sergeant and Matagorda, all the commissioners, everybody got together, had a plan, and bang, zoomed it. I don't think
in there we got a transportation director. We've got Warren Robichaud with the hospital. Jeff, this was weird. We even had and he's been in there before, but I didn't appreciate it. We had a ham radio operator.
Yeah.
And when we lost all communications, and I don't mean some, and I don't mean we lost all communications. The only way we could communicate with Sergeant was there was a ham radio operator and Sergeant at the fire department and one in our emergency operations center. And that's how we communicate.
Yeah. And I know that gentleman. I know who that is. So
unbelievable. Yeah. But I'm telling you, it was a sight to be seen. I mean, the team really pulled together. We were thrown so many obstacles, no communications, no. I mean, but every time we had an obstacle, really smart people in there would come up with a solution. When we lost communications, they started pulling out old radios. Right. Out of the closets and charging them up. And so the cities couldn't communicate with the county, and the county could communicate from out in the field. So
Yeah.
We even took a radio down to to South Texas Project so we could communicate with them. They ran one to the hospital. The EMS sat in our parking lot, and all our 911 calls were being answered in Colorado County and radioed over to us.
Right.
And we would take the medical call and run it out into the parking lot and give it to the EMS, and they would take off from there.
Right.
We had a lot of we have a lot of action items, after action items that we need to address. Trust me, when Lieutenant Governor, Acting Governor Dan Patrick was here Wednesday, we took that opportunity to tell him we need a legislative fix for some of these things. Ted Cruz was in yesterday. We were able to brief him yesterday at 2:30. Took him down to Sergeant. Got an opportunity for him to look at, thank the volunteers at the Volunteer Fire Department. We got him down to the beach to show him the conditions of the beach. If you know that, I call it West Revetment Wall. I think there's another name for it. Damaged. And we told him, he said, who owns that? And said, you do, the Corps of Engineers. He said, well, we're going to get that fixed. So there's a lot of good came. There's a lot of work to be done.
Right.
But hats off to the entire team, the volunteers, both in Sargent and Matagorda and Palacios, just unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
Give us
unloading 18-wheelers with 30 pallets of water.
Right.
It's hot. There's mosquitoes. It's just backbreaking work.
Give everybody an idea of how Sargent. I mean, everybody now knows. There was a lot of people that didn't know.
Yeah.
Within a couple hours, because I talked to people up here who had no communication except what I was doing. And they wanted to know, why do we got to stay out of the Sargent area? We live down there. And the people stayed up here. We live down there. What's going on? I said, I'm going to get more information and get it to you.
Yeah.
And I had people drive by here in their cars saying, hey, can we go down there yet? Or can we go? Not yet. Don't do nothing yet. And then when the state police were stopping people and checking for IDs, I let them know. And they said, then they started worrying. And I said, don't worry. First of all, you're alive, and I told them, I said, don't worry, you're alive. Anything down there, can be rebuilt, redone, whatever it is you have to do. And I understand your situation and that. And they said, okay, thanks. And it was at one point, Lydia and I were standing outside. It was like a drive-through. People were coming by, knew where I was at, because I don't really say where I'm at when I do the program and stuff, but people that knew where to go. So once the information got out there that Sargent was hit really, really bad, and I even said during the broadcast that, man, Sargent's getting it with the bands and the tornadoes and stuff right now. I said, just, let's pray for those people down there.
Amen.
And when it cleared out, when it finally, got away where people could assess what was going on, Bill Orton texted me and he says, it's like hell on earth down here right now. And then it hit, then it hit home. How is the recovery effort in Sargent going right now?
Amazingly well. I will tell you this. So you have to understand, they didn't get an eye like we did here in Bay City. They never had a minute of what, Jeff, you might know, 4 or 5 hours of relentless wind, rain, tornadoes. And so I will tell you, tremendous devastation. The judge and I went down there pretty quick. I will say this, not one structure that wasn't damaged in some way or another. It may be shingles off some,
right,
and gone. The rest of them are gone.
Right. It started down there with the heavier winds. The hurricane force winds started about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning with the first bands coming on, and it didn't stop until almost 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning when the back end came around. It just kept on getting hit. So it was almost 10 hours.
One of the reasons we asked folks not to go down there was immediately after. First of all, there's debris everywhere. First of all, there's water everywhere. The storm surge estimates are down there as much as 8 feet.
Yep.
The literally probably from the Gulf up to what I call the township of Sargent, downtown Sargent, was covered in water, and so you had a lot of debris on the roadways. The damage, and I'm not sure what the official cause, but the water systems all went down. The generators were working, the pumps were pumping. They just couldn't fill up any of the tanks, and so there was zero water pressure. The sewage system went down because of power issues. So you've got raw sewage, you've got no water, you have no power, you have tree limbs everywhere covering virtually every road. And that's the reason we didn't want an Army worth of looky-loos, drive down there, look around. We also learned from Harvey, the reason we established the checkpoint, just to be frank, is because we didn't want looters down there. We didn't want to keep the residents out. We didn't want to keep the homeowners out.
Right.
We wanted to keep looters from out. And once you find out that there's no power, no water, no nothing, we learned in Harvey that really mean people doing really bad things go down there. So that's the reason the initial checkpoint, everybody kept saying a roadblock. It wasn't a roadblock. It was a check station.
Right. That's right.
To make sure that you were a homeowner going down there. And once the homeowner, here's what's fun. Once the homeowners realized why they were there, they loved it. Yeah. They loved it. Yeah. So Commissioner Esselbaum got his crew down there immediately. Oh, by the way, he lost the whole side of his barn, the roof. He got his crews down there. TxDOT got their crews down there. They immediately started clearing the road, pushing everything away. You had down power lines. You had down cable lines. You had down every line, every pole, a lot of poles. And so it just wasn't safe to get down there. They worked extremely hard, got all the roads passable, some barely. There were some I couldn't even hardly get my truck down when we went down there. The commissioner and the judge and I took off down there pretty quick, get an assessment. And Jeff, 100-year-old trees that have gone through no telling how many storms are down.
Right.
And it's just unbelievable. They will be hauling debris, vegetative debris, they call it.
Right.
They will be hauling debris for months.
Right.
They're stacking it up. They did get a burn permit behind the VFW. There's about 3 or 4 of these huge trucks down there. I don't know that you could put another truck on the road, to be honest. Besides that, and the 40 Jackson Electric power trucks, you have to be really careful driving around down there.
Yeah.
When I tell you there's an army of folks down working, trust me, there's an army of folks down there working. Now, today, I think, is the last day HEB's been feeding. HEB brought their team out of Corpus and San Antonio, set up at the First Baptist Church there. I think that's right there at County 283. And they were serving 3,000 and 4,000 meals a day to the citizens of Sargent. They continued that through the weekend. They continued it through today to make sure and catch those folks that needed meals while they were down there clearing their property. I've been down there, I think, 4 times. The difference between the first time I went and late yesterday afternoon is unbelievable. The homeowners have done a tremendous job of clearing. Some have done a good job of stacking the debris out front. Some haven't, to be honest. They're going to find that since they didn't separate that, they're not going to get picked up until they do separate it.
Right.
That's just life. The tremendous amount. The volunteers, as of this afternoon, were still manning the point of distribution. The good news is every power meter that's not damaged has power now. 100%. I was talking to Jim Coleman literally 30 minutes ago, and he's got 100%. Now, he said it's not pretty. They're going to go down there and straighten poles and haul things off, but every meter that can take power, remember, not every meter can take power. Every meter that can take power has power. So 100% restored in Sargent. Unbelievable. What are we, day 8?
Yeah.
Day 8, total devastation. At one time, AEP and Jackson Electric was reporting about 33,000 outages in Matagorda County. You have to remember, we're a county of 38,000 people.
Yeah.
Now we do have a lot of beach homes, second homes.
Right.
But I've never been more proud of volunteers. You go into the volunteer fire department, Jeff, and you look on the board. They had a list of 70 things that they identified they needed before the storm ever hit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Before
the storm ever hit. And they didn't even know, you know, there for a while, Jeff, and you watched it, at one time it was going between Port Lavaca and
Corpus.
Corpus. And then the next one brought it between Port Lavaca and Palacios. And then one I saw was going to go right over Palacios.
Right.
It was still a tropical storm 12 hours out.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it does this dart to the right, hits Matagorda Square as a Cat 1. Now you go down there to the Sargent people and you tell them it was a Cat 1.
Yeah, they ain't gonna believe it.
Be careful for an argument.
Yeah.
They're gonna tell you it wasn't no Cat 1, it was a Cat 2.
Yeah. Well, here is I'm gonna explain this. And Dan Riley explained it to me from the National Weather Service. And also Andy Kirkland and I talked about this. He wanted to know why around the eye was the storm weaker than the bands that were coming onshore. And on these smaller storms, when you have a bigger high central pressure, lower central pressure on these storms, most of those storms seem to convect towards the center of the storm. So around the eye, yes, higher winds and this and that. The winds around the eye were anywhere between 75 to 85 miles an hour, consistent. But those bands that were coming out, think of it as a whip. At the hand, it's a lot slower. So if it hits you, it's not going to hurt as much. But the ones out farther that are coming around lashing are pushing and sucking the air from the center of the storm out. All right. So if you ever watch a hurricane, the bands that come on, you know, they never say hurricane bands, 125, 150 miles an hour.
Right.
Never really. But Sargent for a long period of time had consistent winds of 90 to 100 miles an hour. And that's more of a Cat 2 storm. And, but they go by the central pressure of the eye in the center of the storm. They don't check. They go and fly out in the bands and they'll do drops. And we were watching some of the drops live. When they were doing the drops, they were coming to us. The information was coming right to us when they did the drops. And some of those feeder bands were higher winds than the actual center of the storm. So that's what happens on a lower pressure storm. The wind tends to be out farther.
The Sargent people believe that. I'm telling you, 100-year-old trees, Jeff.
Yeah.
And some of them were twisted, and I know that's probably a tornado that didn't hit the ground.
The other problem with these storms is when we were talking about this, and they were popping up like little dots all over the place where the tornado warnings were going in.
Yeah.
And after a while, it just stopped. And even though they were getting tornadoes, it's so hard in some of these to find because they're so small. But they'll kick up 100 to 125 mile an hour, just coming off of the water onto the land, and then they die out real quick. But they'll do a lot of damage in that time. And I was watching Channel 13, and that lady down there in Sargent, where she was at her house with her dog, and they sat there, and the roof came off, and they watched the tornado go right over the top of them.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing, and that's why we we go on early. You and everybody else, we go on early to let people know, get prepared now. Be prepared. You know, and I've had generators come in here that weren't even started, touched, or nothing. Still got them coming in, you know, and 4 of them come in today. You know, the people are getting a little scared. Just to give everybody an idea, Napa, McCoy's, and some of these other places have so much equipment, like I do, have so much equipment to repair. They're not taking anymore. They can't take anymore. God. You know, so there's you know, Paul over at Ace is the same way. They're sending them over. They're sending them over to me, and I'm like, I'm in the same situation. So I want people to be prepared. You know, just because you know, you guys saw what a Cat 1 is in Bay City with the eye going directly over. Yeah, it got winds, it got tore up a little bit, but just imagine, you know, jumping up to a Cat 2, Cat 3, Cat 4. It doesn't matter what cat the storm is. You have to be prepared for anything like that.
Yeah, it was funny. I was driving. It wasn't long after the eye, or it wasn't long after, and I've lost most sense of time, but yeah, I went by the gas station up here on the way to the sheriff's office, and because the back roads were flooded. Highway 6th Street was flooded, 5th was flooded, so I had to get up on the main highway to get back to the sheriff's office.
Right.
And there must have been, I don't know, 30, 40 cars in line waiting to get gas at the Valero.
Yeah.
And I thought, one of the things I tell you, and we tell you, is to fill your tank up.
Yeah.
Now, I did get caught flat-footed. I'm going to admit it. You know, one of the other things we say is have some cash on hand.
Yeah.
Well, Carolyn went and I went to 3 ATMs, and all 3 of them were down.
Right.
So shame on me. I take that as a delta. I'll learn from it. I will have, next storm hits the Gulf, I'm going to have some cash on hand.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't have any money in my pocket right now.
I don't either. My wife took mine.
I know. But yeah, it's I think, you know, hopefully this will wake people up and make them realize this is powerful. This is serious. Power is going to get knocked out. You're going to have to be self-sufficient. I will have to tell you that TDM, and I think, and I've been analyzing this in my mind, Texas Department of Emergency Management, our SOC, State Emergency Operations Center. I think it was probably because, I want to say it's because they're excellent. They are. Mm-hmm. We got more attention, and I guess because we were strike zone. I think because we took the brunt of the storm. I'm going to say we got the most attention.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't one thing that we asked for that wasn't here in 12 hours.
Yeah.
The DPS officers at the checkpoint, we said, look, and Dan Patrick came in. We briefed him earlier that day. He did a press conference. And we did that over at the CED, Center for Energy Development, Avenue F. STP was absolutely amazing. They gave us the spokesperson's workroom. They gave us the auditorium. We had news media in here. Dan Patrick, now at that time he was acting governor. Those in Bay City, remember, that's where the Black Hawk came in and landed.
Right.
That was bringing the acting governor, Dan Patrick, to town. But he had about 10 or 12 staffers. And as we said what we needed, you could see them peel off and get on the phone.
Right.
Because they were already ordering it.
Right.
We did talk a little bit about donations and what that looks like. I call it the disaster after the disaster.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the folks in Sargent, they called us up and said, look, don't send anything else down there. We don't have room for it. When you put the call out for food and water and ice and bug spray and cleanup kits, look out, because here it comes.
Yeah.
Sargent was full. Palacios was full. We got a truck of water in, 30 pallets of water. We sent it down to Matagorda. And I just tell you, everything. The Red Cross came out with opened the shelter up at the Bay City Civic Center, opened the shelter up at the Dome, the Tidehaven Dome. We manned that. We had cooling centers. Right. Every time a building got power, we made it a cooling center. The service center, we operated that as a cooling center. Palacios had 2 or 3. Sargent didn't have any power, so we actually sent buses down there. First, we sent a school bus down there with air conditioning. I didn't know school buses had air conditioning. They didn't have air conditioning when I was a kid. But we sent a school bus down there so people had a place to get out of the heat. We had 2 of, I call them the Greyhound buses, the long haul buses. I still think there's 2 down there. We were using those as cooling centers. And so the response for the public was unbelievable. Once we got communications up, and I'm telling you, the AT&T did send a cow that's called Communications on Wheels. It's what I call it's a portable cell tower. Right. We set it over there at the Baptist church so that we can have, and it serviced everybody. We put a drone over the hospital with a portable cell tower. We were placing another at the high school, another CAL, Communications on Wheels. And then that's about the time they powered up the cell towers. There was something, and I still haven't gotten the official word. I don't know if a fiber was cut, damaged, but it it isolated us. They said in the Wharton area. I don't know. I never could get that verified. I will tell you that it identified to me a need for a backup to the backup.
Right.
We cannot live, especially in an emergency, with right. one fiber coming into Bay City or coming into Matagorda County.
Yeah.
We have got to have, and that's going to probably be a legislative fix where the Public Utility Commission tells service providers that they must, and not, or they shall, or must.
Yeah, they must come from different directions, not on the same poles.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And here's my other answer: is preposition the communication on wheels. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Jeff, it's kind of like your story with Kay Bailey Hutchinson and generators. Surely there's communications on wheels sitting around.
Tons of them.
Preposition them along the Gulf Coast so that when a fiber is damaged or cut, and we couldn't get 911. Our 911 calls were going to Colorado County, and they were radioing us the calls. Right. And have something within a 30-minute drive, an hour, where you get it outside to the Baptist church, get it up and running. And so preposition those. We did have a long talk with Dan Patrick about that. Last night we had, or late yesterday afternoon, we had U.S. Senator Ted Cruz here. We talked to him about that. FCC has jurisdiction over telecommunications as well as the PUC and the legislature. And they listened. I will tell you, they listened and the staff took notes. We learned a lot with this. We learned a lot from Harvey that we instituted. Yeah. With this hurricane, and we'll learn even more and be ready again. I can't say enough about those that provided food for us. Our industries were just on the phone with me. Mitch, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? STP was able to provide meals for the Palacios employees. They brought a real blessing. They brought food to the EOC. Tenaris was delivering equipment, supplies, anything we asked for. Roberto De Hoyos himself was here, dropping things off. I had a long talk with him several times. HIF was calling, what can we do? What can we do? It was just a concerted effort of all, and I'm sure I'm leaving one of our industry out. I apologize. But it was just a tremendous effort. Chick-fil-A was providing meals to those in the shelter. And I don't know who all else. I went over there and there was about 1,000 meals sitting there. We housed overall about 300 or 400 families in and out as their power came back on, because there were some areas that were without power for 5-6 days.
Yeah.
And so tremendous effort by AEP. V. Strauss was on the phone with us, was in our EOC. We were getting twice daily briefings. She would call us at 9 and 4. She kept us up to date with where they were working, what they were working on, how they were doing it. Jackson Electric, AEP, AT&T, just a complete team effort. Again, every time we were thrown a curveball, it was hot. The hospital never shut down. Actually, the hospital never lost power. They have a dedicated power line from that new substation behind them.
Right.
They have their own dedicated power line. They never lost power. Now, they lost communications, and evidently, I don't know anything about medical, but a lot of their procedures, a lot of their treating patients is cellular.
Right. That's
the reason we flew the AT&T Dome immediately over the hospital. And then we were bringing in the more powerful cell. Then we dispatched the drone to Sargent, because here's something nobody knows. Every bit of your power company utility trucks, guess how they get their next job? It's all cellular.
Yeah.
And when cellular's down, you have to go to pen and paper.
That's right.
And so now they've got to gather instead of being dispersed. Now they've all got to get in one spot and get their pen and their pad out
and wait for Wells Fargo to show up.
Yeah. So the only way to communicate with the trucks was cellular. Well, you couldn't.
Yeah.
You couldn't. And how do they order materials? Hey, I'm over here with 4 broke poles. Well, let me run somebody down. Jeff, you're going to laugh. To get cell service, we would leave the EOC and drive 6 miles out of town until I guess we caught a Wharton Tower to make phone calls. I sat up there, and then eventually I could get one bar at the VFW up there north of town.
Right.
I sat down there with AT&T for 59 minutes. I counted it, ordering the cow and trying to go through all the paperwork and answer all the questions to get the cow so that we would have temporary service at the EOC so that we could just talk.
Where are those cows kept at?
I don't know. It took about an hour and a half to get here. So I don't know. I never did find out. I'm throwing a dart and saying Houston or something.
But the smart thing would be to have with every in 50 miles have at least 1 or 2 of those in a storage facility somewhere along the coast, knowing that the coast gets hit by hurricanes. I mean, and then have them available, and they're going to know right away, hey, where's the storm going? Okay. AT&T would say, hey, we need to get these out here now. Amen. Before the storm comes out, and then right after it goes through, put them up right away.
Jeff, I assure you that is top of our county judge Bobby Seiferman's list. I can't tell you how many times I've heard him say that, and I can't tell you how many times he's told people that, including Dan Patrick, including Ted Cruz. And I'll bet you a lot of money that when the legislative session starts, that's going to be top on his communication. It's going to be top on ours, is having those assets, numerous assets, close.
You talk about Kay Bailey Hutchinson. That woman was so into what I was saying because it made sense. Yeah. Why, if you're going to have, it's great to play music on a station and collect revenue to make revenue for the station. But another reason your station is there is to help get information out to people. That was my
and it's and I never realized that we were so dependent on internet and so dependent on cell service in the emergency operations center to communicate with the public.
Correct. It's something I'm going to work on. We'll work on it, and that I believe that we need to do just in case that ever happens again. I guarantee you, before the next storm, I will have something up, even if it has to be smaller, right out of my pocket, for at least the people of Bay City to be able to get communicated to. But the biggest thing that we rely so much, and we sit back and we go, God, this is working great. That works great. This is the internet's working great. This and that. But when it's gone, everybody, so we go back to the old analog system, which you had guys had to do with the radio instead of digital.
That was the radio. That's that we were digging. They were digging radios out of the closet.
Yeah, the analog system is still a great backup. I always looked at analog as like you talked about the guy with the ham radio, and analog is that ancient, but it never failed us. It's always worked, And digital was something a little different. You need more power for a digital system. But, to do things, to be able to use a company like AT&T, at every one of their cell towers, they have generators, So I know they had a little issue with some of those generators, the start and stuff, but that's still your ground. That's your ground zero to start something when everything is out,
And we also learned they need to put it on a refueling schedule.
Yeah, well, we
just turn it on.
Yeah, yes.
You also got to fill the tank.
Yeah, right.
And that's why we came up.
Yeah.
And they pulled our cow, and then all of a sudden, in the middle, we lost communications again. We'll come to find out the towers were 3 particular towers that ran out of gas.
Yeah.
And so I'm calling for the cow back. And then when we did get, they realized, and there are alarms on them. They knew that they had ran out of gas.
Yeah.
And so I told them, you can't pull the cow. Right. And he said, yeah, but we got the generators on a fueling schedule. I said, I can't trust you. I'm sorry. I trusted you once. Right. You pulled my cow.
Right.
The generators went down. Right. The cow ain't leaving. And so if you drove by the Baptist church and you saw a piece of equipment sitting there not running,
right,
that was why we were not going to go down again.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll give them credit, Jeff. They honored it.
Yeah.
And they didn't pull that cow until everything had been run. They proved to the judge and Chris Piker, the IT guy, that you could adequately run that with your fueling schedule. And it actually went, I was going to do 24 hours before I allowed it to go. And we went a little bit over that. But then on top of everything else, they're talking about pulling it because the generators are running. And I've got Dan Patrick on his way in a helicopter. Mm-hmm. And I told him, you really don't want this to go down when Dan Patrick's in town.
Yeah, no.
And they decided that I was correct.
Yep.
And it stayed running, and we got a lot of attention, I will tell you. I don't know what the fallout's going to be.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of attention.
I'm sure in these big situations like this, and especially over towards the Houston area right now, which that's like, wow. I don't want to be a part of Centerpoint or nothing.
No
way. I don't care if the owner said, hey, come with me. I'm going to give you $1 million. You're on your own. I don't want nothing with that. I was up in Houston the Saturday, and I was up in Houston yesterday.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, it's like a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Had to go up Airline Highway up there off of
You went way up north
of 610 there in Airline way up there. And it is terrible. It's spotty. There's spotty electricity on at certain places. The other thing is, and which makes it even worse, is the garbage companies haven't came around to pick up the waste from the restaurants and the food that they had to throw out, and the smell and the atmosphere. It's terrible. I don't know how people are putting up with it. It's bad planning. I look at this over here, and we're golden compared to those folks over there. It's just a cluster. I'm not going to say the other word, but it's a cluster. It's just, I could not believe when I went to the city of Houston, the fourth largest or fifth largest city in the United States.
Wow.
And still to be sitting there with trees on lines and power lines haven't moved, and not being able to get transformers, and when they do put them up, some of them are defective. I mean, we were talking over there to a resident, and there was a guy working on one of the lines right there, and I said, where are these transformers coming from? He said, the ones from Canada we already use. The ones in the United States are very hard available. We're getting transformers from China.
Oh no.
China.
No.
And I said, you got to be kidding me, brother. He says, they're going to sit here. They're going to wait. Some of these people, electricity, aren't going to get them for another week or two. I said, wow, that's crazy. That's just on a Cat 1 little storm. Imagine if it was really ripped apart. And I'm like, oh, man, so yeah, they have it bad. But I'm glad, to be living in an area where, and I'm going to be blunt and say it out there, where people got their shit together.
I'm going to say, I heard a rumor early on that, and there wasn't a delay, but that the delay is because they can't get transformers. Well, I called V.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
V, is there any rumor to the fact that you can't get transformers? And she said, oh no, that they, and I'll tell you why. Well, I'll tell you what she told me, that immediately here's what their center was watching. They moved all of this equipment, trucks, people to Corpus, because that's where they thought it was going to. They thought Corpus was going to be the dirty side.
That's right. Yeah, we're in Corpus. That's correct.
And then when they realized, oh no, it's moving, let's all set. So they moved everything to Victoria.
Right.
So when the storm cleared, the only delay was moving all of that stuff. And so all the other areas, New Mexico, wherever AEP is, they shipped all of their available product to Corpus. So we already had all of and I don't know what the territory is for AEP Texas, but all the areas inland shipped all of their poles, transformers, shipped it to Corpus. Now, if you'd asked somebody, is there 12 transformers in Bay City? The answer may have been no at that time.
Right.
But they moved all of that to Victoria. So when it got safe, when the winds died down enough, here the Bay City crews were already here working.
Right.
But that's when the Victoria, the Army, and it was an Army, hit from Victoria. So if you say, okay, well, that was an hour delay. Well, you don't want those trucks in the middle of the path of the hurricane.
That's right.
They people, come on. They've got to stage in a safe place.
Yep.
They can't drive here with 80-mile-an-hour winds.
That's right.
And so once it was safe, I was on the phone with V, and I've lost track of hours, but in the 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock range, when it became safe, V said, Mitch, I'm on my way. We're all on our way, and everything went to the fairgrounds.
That's right.
And they did assessment teams, went everywhere, and then they started assigning with pen and paper now.
Yep.
Teams to come out and start hitting. They had all the equipment they needed, and so that was that. I did track that down. At the time, I didn't have a way to get that information out. But lessons learned. There'll be things we can do better, faster. But I will tell you, we're 8 days in, 7 days in. Jackson Electric reported, I think yesterday morning, 100%. Jackson Electric reported 100% in everything but Sargent. And then this afternoon, 100% power restored in Sargent. So unbelievable effort. The cell towers were all up and running. I'm assuming they're all on power and the generators are off. Identified a couple of weaknesses, communications. We're not going to let that backbone. We're not going to let communications hinder us. But I'm thrilled. Now, can you find a citizen or two that's upset? Probably. But I can assure you that the team functioned tremendously. I mean, we all know each other. We drill tomorrow. Tomorrow is actually a drill. It's STP drill. We have the FEMA and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission here. It's every 2 years we get graded on the ability. So it was kind of funny. We moved. We're not ready to close the EOC. Right. So we've actually moved the EOC because we had to move a working real EOC out of the sheriff's office so that we can put up a drill EOC.
Right.
But the EOC now is over at the Seamont building, the 4-story building, the county building.
County building.
And we need the sheriff to have his office back.
Oh yeah.
We're down to a handful of folks manning the EOC. Of course, we're all on call and manning it. A lot, if not all, of our TDEM, Texas Department of Emergency Management folks are gone. They demobilized. I had the best PIO crew out of Abilene, Texas. That down. One of the guys at TDM said, "Man, you need to put in a STAR request," and I don't know what STAR means, but it means a request from the state for help. That's a STAR request. I don't know what it stands for. And they said, "You need to put in a STAR request for PIO help." And I said, "Yeah." Next thing I know, here comes 2 trained PIOs from Abilene down there to help me. And it was just a godsend. I mean, I could concentrate on TV, newspaper, radio. I'm going to go back and count up and do a list of all the interviews. I started Channel 26, about 6 a.m. I met her down in Matagorda before the sun came up Sunday morning. Right. In fact, I met her at 5:50 down at the LCRA park. And we went out on the beach and did an interview of how we were preparing and what we were doing. Channel 13, Channel 26, Telemundo. I did several Telemundos. The New York Times called.
Yeah.
AP, Associated Press, many times.
I ran into the storm chasers. There were a lot of storm chasers that were down in Matagorda, like famous, very famous storm chasers. From Mike's weather page. He was in Sargent. Where we always talk about Mike's weather page because we're a lot of information on. But Mike was down.
Was he the one that recorded the 102?
I believe so. Yeah,
because I knew one of the storm chasers recorded 102.
Yeah, there was the Weather Channel was there too, and put his arm out there on the one side over there. Yeah, and he had 98 to 100. But yeah, it was sustained winds between 98 and 102 miles an hour. Yeah. And then we met a lot of the Texas the Texas storm chasers. They were down there. We did an interview with the Associated Press. I did on the beach prior to the storm. As I was walking off, then I got stopped by somebody with the Weather Channel, and I can't remember her name. It was a girl, She was at the top of the beat. So we did that one. I did that interview. And then when we walked over with the Storm Chasers, there were people that were coming in from Austin, that drove from Austin, wanted to come over and see what it was like. And then we had, for a blip second, a tornado watch out, or a tornado warning that was flipping just north of Matagorda and coming around just the top end of the storm before it was coming on shore. It went towards Palacios, and everybody was pointing, and I'm looking, ever watch a bunch of birds look in one direction when you're pulling up on? That's what it looked like. I'm like, what are they looking at? And I came around and pulled out, and you saw a low loft cloud that was spinning, but it didn't form into anything. And they were on it and on and on. And those guys didn't want to be bothered. They were, were focusing on that thing. But there had to be at least, 20 to 30 different companies of storm chasers that were down in Matagorda. And the lady asked me, she said, "Sir, do you know where it's going to hit?" I said, "You're standing right at the place where the center of the eye is going to go." And that was before the storm got here. And I sort of had a feeling that it was going to make more of a northerly turn when it built up, because that was weaking. It was still going northwest, but when it built up to that Cat 1, that's when it made the turn and went north. But anyway, it worked out the way Andy and I had talked about it, and I predicted that it would be between Palacios and Sargent somewhere. And they kept on saying, "No, we think it's going to go this way," and no, Dan is so cool from the National Weather Service. He's like, "Nah, Jeff, I don't think so. I think you're right. I think we're going to go this way." And it's, you do this long enough, you see patterns that happen and things that move. So we kept an eye on it,
And Jeff, here's my message: is plan as if you're ground zero.
Yeah.
And then when you're not, then you can be happy. I mean, and I'll tell you, Dan Patrick, when we interviewed him, when he was he got pretty hot. He got heated because I guess some of the Centerpoint folks were saying, or I don't know who was saying what, but somewhere there was a statement that, well, we didn't expect.
Yeah.
And he went off on we didn't expect. And we told him, we opened the EOC on Friday.
Yeah.
And we expected, we're along the Gulf Coast. It's the Gulf of Mexico. It's a hurricane. If the one thing we know to do is to expect the unexpected. And to quit listening to somebody that tells you it's coming in and expect it to hit you, or plan like we planned like it was going to hit us directly.
Yeah.
And guess what? It did.
Mm-hmm.
Sargent planned like they were going to get hit severely.
Right.
And they did.
Right.
My message to the community is, I don't care where they're telling you it's coming. Listen to Jeff. He got it right. Plan as if it's coming right at you, and have water and medicine and food and a power source or batteries, and expect to be hot and bothered and mosquitoes and miserable.
Yeah.
Our goal, the number one goal of the Emergency Operations Center, is the health and safety of every citizen, resident, and visitor.
Yeah.
But I want you to plan as if you're going to be out of power like Houston. Now that's a little extreme. Some were here in Matagorda County, some without power as much as 6 days. But I wonder, just like me and not having enough cash, and just like those folks lined up at the Valero gas station, prepare. We've got 4 more months or more. I do the math. We've got a lot more time to be ready for another hurricane.
Yeah.
And we need to be ready. You need to have Jeff work on your generator before the storm forms or before it gets in the Gulf, Jeff,
I'm out of parts. I'm out of parts. I'm done. I'm closing now for good.
Jeff,
That's it. I'm retiring.
Jeff, you would be proud of me. I went to the barn. You and I talked about that not too long ago. And I went to the barn and I kept telling you it was 3 pulls and it runs.
Yeah.
Now it was 4 pulls. But I tested it. I made sure it was running properly, made sure everything was running, everything was topped off. I stopped by Bert's RV and I filled up my propane. I guess it's been a while, Jeff, since I filled up propane tanks.
Yeah.
Because it was $54.
Wow.
Propane's gone up, but I filled up a bunch of propane tanks. Yeah. And the only thing I didn't do, we got plenty of food. The only thing I didn't do was I didn't go to the ATM and get cash. So lessons learned. Yeah. The top of my hurricane preparedness, I'll go by and see if Carolyn will let me have $3 or $4 out of the bank. So, or maybe I can roll some quarters.
Roll quarters. That's what you're going to get. It's my problem too.
Before the next hurricane, I'm going to roll me some quarters.
Yeah.
So I can have me some cash on hand. And but anyway, hats off to the team.
Yeah.
We learned a lot. We have a lot we need to know. Thank you, Jeff, and your hard work on letting us on all the work coming up to this.
Yeah.
And being in preparation, when you stop and think about this, and Jeff, you got this information. We've been watching this hurricane since what? Mid-Atlantic?
Oh, yeah.
And we knew it was a Cat 5?
Yeah.
And we watched it hit those islands? Yeah. We watched it hit Mexico?
Yeah.
We knew what day it was going to hit into the Gulf.
Yep.
And yet, people are saying I wasn't prepared. I don't know. I don't know, Jeff. And they were chastising. I remember they were chastising us on why were we asking for RVs and high-profile vehicles, big boats, to be pulled out by Saturday at 8. I'll tell you, so that everybody else could prepare.
That's right.
Now, that was when we were thinking that we were going to hit, help me, Jeff. I thought that landfall was going to be 8 p.m. on Sunday.
Yeah.
And it slowed down.
Yep, slowed down.
And it sped up. Yep. It got stronger.
Yeah, that's right.
So we asked you to have everything out by 24 hours before the storm. You don't want to know why? Because if you're getting hit by a storm and you've got a big old RV and you blow over, guess what you're going to do to all the cars behind you?
Yeah, that's right.
Trying to evacuate.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't say that online, and I didn't say that. I'll say it now.
Yeah.
The reason, well, Mitch, why do we have to get out so quick? And that means it's to get out of the way of all the other people that need to evacuate, because at 39 miles an hour, 55 miles an hour, you pick up miles an hour, you're going to have difficulty.
Yeah.
And I didn't want all of you blocking the cars and the trucks and the citizens trying to evacuate. They wanted to get out of harm's way, and your trailers laying across FM State Highway 60 or FM 457 or in Palacios. That's why. It's not to be ugly. It's not to be mean. It's planning ahead for everybody.
Yes, it is.
And what I heard, well, it's not convenient for me to go down there and get it out.
Yeah.
Now, law enforcement was telling them, get it out as quick as you can.
Yep.
Get it out as quick as you can. We established 8 p.m. on Saturday. And the whole reason was I expect that the forecast was hitting about 8 o'clock. And so we knew that if we hit at 8, then tropical storm winds would start around, help me, Jeff, 6, 4.
Yeah. 2-3 hours before. Yeah. 2-3 hours before the heavy stuff. But it actually made landfall I predicted between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. in the morning. It made landfall right there just after 4 o'clock, close to 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Because of slowing down. You know, it was
Yeah.
going 12 miles an hour, and everybody was prediction at 12 mile an hour forward speed, and then it slowed down to 8 and 10 and made it a little bit longer for it to hit. Yeah,
Well,
but
and it made it longer that we were under the eye too,
yeah,
right?
we were under the eye, correct, and that more of those winds were coming up and hitting Sargent. By the way, just to get to I want to say this so I don't forget real quick.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I promised David King that I would say this. If you're Palacios, Palacios Chamber of Commerce, poker in Palacios has been rescheduled for Saturday, August 10th. So Saturday, August 10th. And by the way, our friend Andy Kirkland has not had internet since the storm up there yet. He just texted me now. He had to get a new phone and everything. So, by the way, just to let you know, Mike Mariner, when the storm came, we duct taped him to his bed, floated him out into the Gulf of Mexico, and we haven't heard from him. We do have a GPS on him. He is somewhere near Mexico, but we're not sure. And does
he have a Mai Tai?
He has a Mai Tai and a dinghy. Something with his dinghy. I don't know what's wrong.
I don't want to go there.
His rope. Well, his dinghy broke a long time ago. He's saying his rope broke. His rope broke. All right. But anyway, one of my things, and I've always said this, I want to be accurate on what I put out, and I think we did. I really do. I'm impressed. I want to thank Dan over there at the National Weather Service. I want to thank the National Hurricane Center for sending us content. My friend Andy Kirkland and I, who tirelessly, we're weather geeks, and we just watch this stuff going on. Now, as far as me wanting to go chase a damn storm and be in the middle of the eye and all that, like these crazy people down there, no. Was
there anybody your age down there, or just young people?
Oh no, they were all. What's messed up? They're all my age. It's crazy.
Really?
Oh, it's nuts. Reed Time. So Reed Timer's a storm chaser forever. He's close to 50. Those guys that I were talking to were in their 50, 55. There's some 70-year-old guys out there that figured, okay, the wife's gone, so the worst I'm going to get is this storm giving me hell. You know what I mean? So, so let's pack up a six-pack and we're going. But they want to see it. And it's a spectacular thing to see, but it's also super highly dangerous. You should have seen the vehicles and the apparatus that these guys have on with radar and everything on them. And they're being funded by sponsors and stuff like that. Hell, I can't get a sponsor for one thing that I do here, but those guys, crazy guys, are getting thousands of dollars for equipment and all those other things. So, like I said, with that being said, my biggest thing for the next storm is for me to continue to be able to communicate. I was able to do it when the electric went out because we had a generator. Yeah. And I would tell people this: if you have a business and you depend on internet really bad, get 2 different lines of internet. You can go cable internet and AT&T or fiber or whatever. But the radio station, we always had 2. We always had a cable and AT&T. If one went out, we always had one backup. I know it's a little bit more expensive, but during a storm, man alive, the cable internet here did not go out until 10 o'clock in the morning after the storm was passed, because our cable internet comes from Wharton and El Campo.
Oh, okay.
So that's where the main source is, and they got hit up there with those back winds pretty bad.
Yeah, they did. The
knocked
north
it out.
Wind.
Right. So, but my internet was only out 4.5 hours.
Okay.
Oh, I was only down 4.5 hours. But I want to be able to do something here for us in Bay City and Matagorda County that I can continue to broadcast during that time to let people know. And we're going to work on that. I'm going to work with different companies and see if we can get something up. Lord knows I can't do it all myself. Right. I mean, money wise to get it done. But we want to take that next step now. We've been doing what we're doing here online since 2018. So we started with Bay City Radio, and Gulf Coast One came in 2020, and we've been doing it now going on 4 years. Gulf Coast. So, and a lot of people watching. Jesus, I couldn't believe we had that one time on the website, just within that 24-hour period, 88,778 or something like that. People from around all over the place, so I want to thank those people for continuing to watch, and we're going to continue on just making it bigger and better. But Mitch, great job, brother, and all those folks out there that are still struggling, your prayers. There's plenty of things to go, plenty of places to go. The stream, my stream with the little texting at the bottom. I'm going to put back on here in just a minute on the page. I'm going to switch it back over. That's all the information that Mitch has given me for the FEMA information and that. If you're still don't know where to go and what to do, please come to the website. All those links are on there for Hurricane Beryl, and I'm going to continue to run that stream on Gulf Coast One Radio, Gulf Coast One, the website. And you can follow the upcoming news and all that other stuff on there. I was going to talk about a couple of more things, but it's getting late. And next week we'll talk about a little bit more about the election. We'll talk about Donald Trump, and the what happened in there. The RNC night 2 is going on tonight. We'll talk about that as well.
I'm loaded for bear to talk about that, Jeff.
Okay, good
loaded, buddy. It's going to get loud. It's going to get rowdy.
Yes.
I'm going to get wound up.
Yeah.
Everybody get ready. I'm getting wound up.
That's right. Next Monday. Fireworks. Next Monday. Fireworks on the show.
Have that mute button ready.
I have it ready. On behalf of myself, Jeff Michaels, and Mitch Staves, have yourselves a great week, and we'll see you next time right here on Inside Texas.